Is performance in the gym the goal, or is it merely a tool to live better outside of the gym? Today I'm joined by 8-time CrossFit Games competitor and owner of Park City Fit, Chris Spealler, to talk about walking that line and what it means to be adventure ready. Welcome to the Strength Coach Collective, a podcast brought to you by Two Brain Business. We are here to help advance the strength and conditioning coaching community by bringing you a wide range of experts in the field. Join our group at strengthcoachcollective.com. Chris, dude, I'm stoked to have you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny.
So let's do a quick recap on your background. I want to talk about what you're doing now, but to get to where we are now, we have to go from where you were. So yeah, hit me with that.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, as far as like the strength and conditioning world, I grew up, playing sports, all that stuff. It was part of like being prepared for sports, and wrestled in college, got out of college, and did the ski bum thing in Park City, Utah, and was a bit lost with how to train and what I wanted to do, and stumbled into this thing called CrossFit. I think it was fall of 2006. A buddy of mine in the Marines introduced me to it. Tried to work out, old school, man. Did the workout online. Looked on CrossFit.com on the old blog post. It was Cindy, and I did it with terrible range of motion. And I told my friend I was going to try it for 6 weeks. And then that just carried on. I ended up competing at the games from 2007 through 14. I didn't qualify in 13. Worked on seminar staff, I think, from 2008 to 2016. I was a flow master for them, traveled around the world. I helped write the competitors course, which has been refined, but at the time, myself, Matt Chan, Eric O'Connor, we wrote that, traveled around the world and taught that, which was super cool. Helped out with some of the specialty seminars, or like what would they be called now? Maybe like the CEU type things.
Sure.
And then stepped away from that in 2016, focused on running the gym and an online program, and really have been doing that since, primarily just focusing on emphasizing like the in-person thing. We still have an online presence and invest in the people that are there, but I really have leaned into the in-person as online has gotten quite saturated, and I'm not interested in trying to keep up with the social media on that side of things.
Yeah, totally. So what you're doing now, you're calling adventure preparedness programming, right? Yeah. And so the going from, tell me about that, and then let's talk about kind of the evolutions from 2016 to now and how that's gotten where it is.
Yeah, so I think like from 2016 to 2018 or 19, 20, there wasn't much of a change in like training philosophy, things like that. I was still CrossFit through and through. And I really leaned into that heavily, and did that with the gym as well. Really varied programming, and most often high intensity, pretty much every day, I would say. And then as things kind of evolved, I think as I got a little bit older was part of this catalyst. And then also just conversations with people that I really respect. I've got a good friend of mine in Dallas. He owns a gym called BPR. And he and I will bounce ideas off one another. His affiliate gym has been around for, almost as long as ours, I think like 18 years or something like that. And so we've just kind of talked through, what does this look like? Is it sustainable? How do we do it? And I had sort of these ideas of creating a better way to program where it's not so called scaling, because I think for a long time scaling, by those definitions that we learned was, okay, we'll just lower the load, reduce the reps, lower the volume or the distance. And we kind of put these like big overarching themes that I still think have like a lot of questions to them. They're really great. But when we say like, oh, and it's like relative to the person's physiological and psychological tolerances, that's a great quote, but it doesn't have much guidance.
Yep.
It's like, okay, like, well, what does that mean? And how does that play out? And so trying to kind of find a way to, what does that look like? Instead of offering scaled versions, we started offering versions that were less demanding. So that kind of fell into all right, well, what movement patterns are less demanding? Instead of a snatch, maybe we do a kettlebell swing.
Yep.
And well, if we tier it further down, instead of a kettlebell swing, we do an RDL.
Yep.
And if we tier it down, we're going to do a hip hinge hold. So maintaining still the integrity of the movement, but finding ways to make the movement demand more appropriate.
Yep.
So that kind of like bled into these ideas of, okay, well, what do we call that? And how do we write that? And I ended up rebranding in 2020, we went to just Park City Fit. And then in 2022, I think 2023, we did kind of like a rebrand to more address the people in Park City.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of this idea of adventure preparedness program came from, because so many of our members, they use the program as a means to an end. None of them are interested in competing in functional fitness. And by that, I mean, like, I'm talking like the CrossFit Games, I'm talking High Rocks, I'm talking like Tough Mudders. Like, they're not interested in any of that.
Yep.
They want to ski better. They want to enjoy the trail run. We have people that have been with us for literally, almost since day one. And for a gym that's been around for 18 years, if someone started with you at 40, they're now 58.
Yeah.
There's a big difference,
Yes. Yeah.
So kind of navigating that has led us to this rebrand, and also adjusting programming to say, hey, this is adventure preparedness program. That's what we do. And then we offer two different tiers that are less demanding. One being kind of just like a reduced movement demand, and the other being more of like a recovery version.
Love it.
That's a long answer, Kenny.
No, that was a great answer. That's been my similar journey as well. I feel like there was a very extended period of time where my entry into it was the gym was a means to an end. And then all of a sudden the gym was the end. Like, I would stop doing things outside of the gym because I didn't want to interfere with my workouts.
Yep.
And I wouldn't trade that. I enjoyed the heck out of that experience. But then as I got older and my members, same story, we started realizing, like, well, actually we've forgotten about what we got into this for.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to be so sore, or I don't want to ruin my thing. I'm going to be too sore to do something tomorrow. And that was kind of a big question mark for me. It's like, well, wait, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And just kind of embracing that, and that, like you said, like, if that's a season that people are in, that's totally fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just think, like, forcing people into that, or people doing that without asking the questions, is kind of like a disservice to them. And then also just us saying, like, hey, we just don't serve that clientele. Like, if someone's trying to come to us, and we've had it happen, they come to us and they maybe know my name from previous competition stuff, and they don't really take the time to kind of read through their website or learn about our philosophy at this point in time. They've honestly been, like, let down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this just isn't hard enough, or it's not enough volume, or you don't lift enough, or there's not enough intensity. It's like, well, that's okay. Like, you can go somewhere else. It's just, we just don't do that type of programming. So it just is what it is.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you made that sound fairly easy and confident. But that journey, how was that? Like, as far as making those transitions, because I've had members disappointed.
Yeah.
As we've evolved, as the programming has changed, how did that go for you? It's probably harder.
It is not easy. I know. I was even just talking to a client a few minutes ago about how I still have these ideas. I'm idea guy, so I gotta be careful. That's like my gig, right? Putting the ball in the end zone, I gotta find somebody else. Like, you want 15 ideas, I am your guy.
Yeah.
But having said that, I am even, and I need to be careful, because I think sometimes I look at a little bit myself and I think about, well, how do I feel? And I sometimes apply that to everybody must feel that way, and that's not always true, right? But I'm sort of even at this point where we try to give our members education that you can't burn it down every day.
Yeah.
You shouldn't burn it down every day. We want you to self-assess. We even have, like, posters hanging up in our gym on how to self-assess. what questions you should ask yourself. If you have X amount of these questions that are in like the red, you should be doing the Stoke, which we call, Stoke or refresh versions. If you feel really good, you could do the APP, Adventure Preparedness Program. Those are different versions of that. And so we try to do that. We try to foster that. But when you have a gym that's been around for a long time, it's really hard for people to let go of that. Wait, like I'm still going to benefit from this if I don't just crush myself. It's like, yeah, you will actually. You might actually feel better and benefit more.
Yeah.
And we're not eliminating intensity. That's not the point. I don't want to eliminate it. It's valuable. It's necessary. It's a piece of improving people's fitness. But we talked about it, 20 years ago. We would kind of joke around a little bit in our circles and say like, hey, do you think we'll be able to do this for 20 years, 30 years?
Yep.
And it was sort of this unknown. And I say this often on podcasts or conversations. We know the answer now. You can't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. It just means that, okay, how do we evolve this thing? What does it look like? And how do we take what we know has been so valuable and so good and life-changing and change the course of the industry, frankly, right?
Yeah.
But how do you take that good and keep it? And then ask the questions of what do we do to evolve this thing to make it more sustainable, to help the person that is 48, 68 instead of, 50. Like, how do I keep them in my gym? How do I continue to serve them? And we could have that answer be like, well, I just don't serve those people. That could be your answer, is like, hey, I don't run a facility that addresses that. We're about performance. And that means that like, you're probably going to be limited to 20 to 35 years old, and like we burn it down. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just not that facility.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that facility. So it's been a difficult journey, because even now I'm trying to process through like, what do I do to make this more sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
And like, how do I create these templates that sort of walk the line, right? Of like, hey, yes, it's still going to feel like what we used to do a little bit, but it's not.
Yeah.
Instead of just abandoning ship.
Totally.
And that's really, I'm just going to call it what it is. It's really hard to do that, because in my experience, myself included, when left to our own demise, we will often resort back to, I'm going to burn it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah, because I actually had the same conversation this morning with someone where I was like, man, I could easily be convinced to just do like compound lifts and row and swing kettlebells. Like that would probably achieve but it's going to be boring and it's not going to keep people around. And, there's that riding the line between novelty, intensity, excitement, and harkening back to some of the things that we love and skill development. There's a lot of good, which I'd actually like to, what are the goods that you want to try and retain?
Yeah. Intensity is good, right? Just at the right frequency. So we know that that's good. I think often people need to be told to work harder in scenarios, right? And that's okay, but it needs to be allocated appropriately throughout the week or the training block. Compound movements are awesome. Weightlifting is awesome. What type of weightlifting? It's going to vary, right? Like power lifts versus Olympic lifts. What are your clients trying to achieve? Is it necessary to have one do squat snatches and muscle ups? Probably not. Are they valuable? Absolutely. Are they fun? Absolutely. Do we need to slap that on an entire community? No. So intensity, compound lifts, I think elements of variance are great when it comes to a couple things. Developing a broader base of fitness, even on a business side, keeping clients engaged and entertained with things. I think it's valuable. And just us as athletes, I think that's valuable. Tracking your progress, seeing what that is, looking at loads, times, reps, things like that, and being able to look at that, super valuable. Coaching, right? Having a facility where actually coaching actually happens and people care about movement quality. That's really valuable. All those things are, but I think some of the things that, if I'm going down like the other rabbit hole, you can stop me, Kenny, but like, I think some of the things that I've learned that are more valuable is having specific lifting cycles that are a progressive overload.
Yep.
They're just more effective than
Same.
varied lifts. It just is,
Yep.
right? Like, so we program in 9 to 12 week blocks with specific lifting days. More, and it's a buzzword for sure, but more, you want to call it aerobic work, you want to call it zone 2, you want to call it recovery. I don't care what you want to call it, like, but having more of that introduced into the programming, I think is really valuable. Probably for two reasons. When you think about like a facility like ours, one, for newer members that have zero base, it helps them progress faster with building their conditioning base. And two, for those that want to burn it down all the time, it acts as a recovery day.
Yeah. And on the latter point, have you noticed that with my more competitive people that are trying to kind of but evolve to the other side of the spectrum, do you find that they have a hard time coming back down? Like, I find that, like, they're like, I'm like, 3, 2, 1, go, and they pin it. I'm like, wait, we're going for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Slow. And they're like, nope. And they just ride that. But I think it's such a good, once we've worked through that and their physiological response to the onset of exercise is not burning sugar and trying to go ham, has been a really amazing thing if they can actually do it. But it can be a challenge to get them to adhere to it because they're so used to it.
Totally. Absolutely. Like, super tough to do. And I think the interesting thing too is, like, you know, like those things in and of themselves aren't what I want to be either. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a gym that just does 5 days a week of lifting. I don't want to be a gym that just does zone 2 aerobic work and develop endurance athletes. So it's like, how do we take these things that we know? And I think it's sort of like this almost unknown territory again, because we're learning or trying to learn. Okay, we know these things are really valuable, let's say from the CrossFit community, right? And we know they are. They do work in the right dose and the right time and things like that, right frequency. But if we're trying to evolve this thing and make it better, you are sort of in this uncharted territory, because it's like, well, okay, what does that look like? Because how do I introduce aerobic work into this, or zone 2? And how do I introduce a lifting pattern? Does that fall into a 6-week microcycle, or a 6-day microcycle, or a 10-day microcycle? Or like, what do I do with this? And how does it work together? And not just in a way that I might enjoy, but let's just be honest, that's going to keep people in my door that like this style of training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do think there's a lot of unknown, because typically you'll just hear these camps of like, it's like always, right? It's like, you know, well, kettlebell training is the best. So all I'm going to do is kettlebells every day. You know, well, zone 2 is the best. So I'm just going to like get my bike and I'm just going to turn it into a zone 2 machine. Well, no. Like, a hybrid athlete's the best. So I'm going to be like a good endurance runner, but still be able to back squat 500 pounds. But that means that, like, I'm going to kind of miss this in between stuff. And so I think we're still in this sort of cool, difficult zone of like, what does this look like for today to make a really resilient athlete that's a sustainable program that they can do for long, like decades, not just years.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. That's one of the things I talk to you when I do consults. I'm like, look, I want you to live a life that you love for as long as you can. And that means being able to do cool stuff when you're 90. And that's the conversation I tend to have with those people who want to burn it down. Is like you said, can you do this for 15 more years? Sometimes, sometimes their answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're wrong. We'll see.
Yeah.
But again, like, it's an interesting, like you said, it's super interesting to consider. What are some of your benchmarks? What are you looking for as assessments or benchmarks, or things that you're marking for progress?
Gosh, that's a great question. Man, we've gone away, I would say, arguably, like, almost non-existent for like your typical benchmarks that we used to do.
Yeah.
You know, Fran, Kelly, and I'm not saying they're wrong or they're bad.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
But part of the reason why I've done that is because we have people that have been with us for so long. they're honestly on the back half of the curve, myself included. And I think what happens is we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot because we sort of can present this program as like, well, hey, as long as your times are decreasing, your loads are increasing, you're doing it right and you're making progress. Eventually, though, that's not going to happen. Like it's just physiologically not possible. I'm not going to I'm not going to clean 300 pounds ever again.
Yep.
I'm not going to snatch 230 again. I'm not going to do Fran in 205 again. I'm just not. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean that the program's not effective, right? Those elements can be effective. So what we've kind of done, and we do it for pretty much anybody new coming into the gym. I'm a really big fan of tracking lifts. So whatever cycle we're in, we're typically doing some kind of squat or hinge or press or pull, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever that is. So we might be testing a back squat, a deadlift. I don't program them a ton because I just think there's other ways to build that. It could be a bench press, strict press, push press, whatever. So we test that generally every 12 weeks or so. And then when it comes to conditioning, we have new members come in, and I would say most of our members can still benefit from this. Some of the real fallbacks that we do, this will probably sound so not exciting. We like to do a goblet squat test to where if people can do 15 to 20 unbroken reps with no pauses at the bottom or the top, if they can do that with generally about half of their body weight, they're pretty capable to do other things that we're confident in, like hang cleans, like more what we call like ballistic or dynamic movements, right?
Yeah.
So we like the goblet squat test. I like to do single leg box step ups, see if they're relatively balanced. I don't need them to be perfect, but it's like, hey, if there's a big discrepancy there, it's good to know that. A pull up, do you have a pull up or not? A dip, do you have a dip or not? A single arm strict press, are we really, imbalanced on either side? So that's kind of like the strength type pieces that we'll look at. And then just like the old classic, and it's not really valuable for me as like, I don't mean to say that like with arrogance, but it's not really going to be a great one for me to use to see if things have been like super effective, but just a 10-minute echo bike test. I'm going to be like floating around within 5 to 10 calories of that.
Yeah.
Any given part of the season or the year. But for new members or new athletes that are coming in, they're learning what it is to have higher intensity efforts. It's really great because you can kind of watch them. You can learn if they're more aerobic or anaerobic, because anaerobic people will kind of like you said, go out hot and then crash and then go up and down and up and down. You can also see what their tolerance for hard work is. And there's no technique behind it. Like a rower, there's like an element of technique there.
Yep.
Where a bike, you're just like, you just grind,
Just
like
raw.
you do you. Yeah. So those are honestly most often the benchmarks that we'll use. And then we sometimes at the end of each 12-week block, just throw in like a workout that we did along that cycle. And if people want to compare, they can compare that.
Yeah. Hello. I mean, same. I was talking about this with Fran earlier, and some of the things that I do sort of miss was the buy-in of the benchmarks with people. Like it was exciting. It's like, I did Fran in 3 minutes. Like, holy crap, that's awesome.
Name on the board.
Yeah, right.
I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was these like heralded benchmarks that were really like that got buy-in from people, even if they didn't have any idea what it actually meant for their exercise or their fitness or whatever. But I mean, I can game Fran. I could do Fran at the same time, no matter what time of year it is. Like, I just know how to do that. And it's so not as raw. Yeah, the raw nature of that stuff is just so much. And it's less, I think it's just less abusive too. I like that. That's like, okay, cool. We're just going to do this. It's going to be a test. You're probably going to correlate your VO2 max. And that means you're getting stronger and your conditioning is getting better too. So here we are. Yeah.
And I mean, that too has like its shortcomings, right? Like I said, like me, it's not a great test because I'm so similar, and I'm also not willing to like it's a good capacity, but I'm also not willing to be like, oh, can I take that from 163 to 180? Like, not really. Like, I don't really need to do that to be more capable outside the gym. So I'm like, I'll just ride the bike hard for 10 minutes, whatever. So even those things have like their shortcomings. So it's what do you do to adapt that for if there's a client that, maybe they're in a similar position. Maybe for them, like it should be a 2 mile run,
Mm,
right? Because they don't have that, because the machine is very different, right? Machine based is really different than
yeah.
self-propelled with running. So it's like maybe that should be that. And I think that's where it's really cool, where we can kind of think creatively and put our coach's hat on and kind of figure out what does that look like for our clients.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's a tricky thing to say, but I also feel like I'm generally fit enough. And that's again, like I want to get better. I want to get stronger, but at the same time, like my I do specialize a little bit throughout the year. Like I hunt, I ski, I backpack, I fish, I do lots of different things. And so for each of those seasons, I'll lean a little bit in a different direction.
Yeah.
But so I think that and again, it's such I feel blasphemous even saying this. My 25-year-old self would probably kick myself now in the
Yeah.
teeth, but I feel like I'm generally fit enough where I can then specialize in each of those corners. So I don't feel the need to add 3 calories to that 10-minute assault bike test
Yeah.
every time. I don't. Do you feel the
Yeah.
same? Is that
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Like it's like, and then like, because I think we've been down that road before, is, well, if you feel that way and you see that as a result, like I'm not lacking in downhill mountain biking, dirt biking, skiing, powder, keeping up with my kids, like those things are all just fine, right? Like I can do that well, I can do that confidently. So, um, if that stuff's all in check outside of the gym, what kind of sacrifice am I going to have to make outside of the gym again to spend more time inside the
yeah,
gym to get that calorie count higher?
right?
And now, like I said, I don't think that really applies toward everybody, especially like our newer members that are coming in within the first year or two. Man, they're probably going to be able to just like follow your routine and do it and see great progress. But for everybody, right? Like for everybody, it comes for us. The plateau,
Yeah,
the backside of the bell curve, the maintenance phase rather than the gain phase. And it's okay, right? Like it comes for us
yeah,
all and it's okay. So when it does, instead of trying to just hang on by your fingernails and ruin yourself to keep these arbitrary numbers, what if you just reframe that context of like, well, what capacity do I need? And what do I have? And is it serving me
yeah,
well? Because that's, if you're not asking that question, I'm just going to call it what it is because it's the same thing for me. And really what's getting in the way is my
yeah,
ego. It's
yeah,
me. It's like, I don't like that I can't. Do I wish I could still back squat 400? Yeah, I do wish that. Am I willing to sacrifice what I do now outside the gym to get back there? Nope,
yeah.
I'm not.
How do you communicate that with your long-term athletes at a certain point where they do hit that they don't have anything to chase responsibly anymore when you're like, hey, this is kind of what it is. I think you should just
Yeah.
keep coming. Like it's an intricate balance of like, let's find something some people just need something
Yeah.
they need an incentive to do the thing. But oftentimes it's
Yeah.
like, hey, just keep coming. I think there's a lack of appreciation of the value of continuing to participate in the program, put in effort, but you don't have a rabbit to chase. You're not trying to beat anybody on the whiteboard. You're not trying to PR anymore. It's just a little bit of a, hey, like just, I don't know. Do you find that that's a challenge or do you have any tips for working through that?
Yeah, and I think the person that does this probably better than anybody else is Matt Chan. So it's like that, like now we start to go into that, okay, now we're kind of turning the page and we're in a new chapter in life. And I'm deciding that, yes, I'm accepting and I know that this training is really valuable. But I also know that like I am no longer willing to or in a position to continue to see these personal bests or make all these sacrifices to try to put 5 pounds on my snatch or
Mm,
whatever. So instead, where else can I find progression? Because what I found is that's what I enjoy. I love seeing progress. So for me, there's typically like three places where I've found that, and it gets to kind of play out relatively quickly because it's like I'm either complete beginner or have some kind of background. One of those is dirt biking. Like I'm a very intermediate dirt biker. Like I'm not great. But if I ride enough, every time I ride, I'm like, oh, I'm a little better.
Yeah.
Like I felt a little
Yeah.
better. And then every year I used to sign up for the Idaho City 100 and we would just race, the loosely based term. Organized ride is what it was for us. And my goal was just to see if I could make the checkpoints. And each year I'd go up. It took me 5 years, but I did it. I was like, okay, cool. Like I met all the checkpoints and I got my little mug and I was like, that's rad, Um, Downhill mountain biking, I absolutely love it. Like, and if you want to talk about progression, holy crap, like that so endless. And then it becomes like conversations of like same thing, like, well, how much risk are you willing to take in order to progress?
Yeah, right.
Because as you get better, like risk increases. But even just like riding bikes in general, mountain biking, you can like you can change that by going on different trails that challenge you more. You can ride the same trail differently. You can practice cornering or braking techniques or ride different types of bikes. I mean, there's so many ways for you to find progression in mountain biking. It's crazy to me. And then jujitsu, like that's one that kind of go in and out. The downside of that is like it just beats you up. It's like the same thing. It's like, oh crap, like I love this because I grew up wrestling and I want to progress at it. And it's the same thing, right? It's like the whole like I'm gonna stick around and get the extra stripe, and now I'm gonna get the belt. And then I'm walking around, I can't turn my freaking neck, and my ribs popped out, and like, some 22-year-old wants to choke me out because
Yeah.
I heard you were a
Yeah.
CrossFit guy. I'm like, yeah,
Settle
pump the
down.
brakes, bro. Yeah. Also, like, it could be your dad. So, so those things, I think, and Matt does a great job of this. He sort of like chooses these. It seems to be like these two events each year, which he trains for. And much like you can, he'll even bias his training toward that, but he never lets go of just general, strength or capacity. You've seen him do things like the Leadville 100. He's done some cool kind of like mountain type triathlon type things. He's done tactical games, but he puts the effort into training for that thing,
Yeah.
even though it gets a little bit biased. I personally, like, I don't have the time to do that right now. But I think that's a great, outstanding way for people that are like we're talking about in that position of, well, I know training is valuable, but what's going to keep me going is, well, now I'm going to train in here in an effective way so I can still do all the stuff out there. And that helps us regulate the intensity in the gym. That helps us keep track of our strength. It helps us improve our endurance depending on what the event is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And the jiu-jitsu thing, I did that for 1,000 years or so. And like the point that I'll get to with that is I actually ended up asking myself the question, like, can I do this for the rest of my life? And unfortunately, the answer for me was no. Like I just said, it's just not worth it to me. It's not in the gym. You certainly can do dumb stuff in the gym, but usually it's under my control. But like somebody else on the mat, like my goodness, I've had some close calls. Luckily, no surgeries as a result. But my gosh, like So the point again is like I think that question of can I do this for the rest of my life is like it becomes more and more important in your 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. And I think we can learn. I think watching some of the guys I know own gyms, I ask them the same thing, and that's how I try and run the gym. It's like, hey, can we do this for the rest of our lives? And if the answer is no, then I gotta make some changes.
Yeah, especially if that's your clientele. Right?
Yeah, for sure. So what does program design look like for you? And that's a broad ass question. I know you mentioned strength cycles and stuff, but talk me through how you're doing your program design for adventure.
Yeah. So we typically program, like I said, in 12-week blocks. 9 of those end up being like the bulk of the program. And then we have generally like 1 deload week and 1 test week. So obviously the deload week is sort of at the very end. The test week would be after the the cycle, and then we go into a deload week and kind of reset and reorganize. So that's sort of like the basic structure of it. And then we look at events that we want to do in the gym that we think sound like fun. So, for example, Chad. Chad is coming up on Veterans Day. So we do a progression to work people toward Chad, because it's probably a bad idea to do 1,000 step-ups without any kind of preparation for that. So we do that, once a week as a workout, but we create some variety. Like, for example, this week was 9 rounds. You did 3 push jerks, heavy, and then 10 box step-ups with no weight on a 15-calorie bike, but you added 10 step-ups to each round. So people accumulated almost 500 box step-ups over the course of this kind of mixed modality workout. Cool. So we progress them along. We might have that event be something that we plan on our own in the summer. Maybe it's a bike ride or a trail run. Maybe people could do that with the CrossFit Open, whatever, it doesn't matter. So we look at events, so we kind of organize that, and we typically progress toward that as well. We program, like I said, generally we've actually shifted to, we program 2 dedicated strength days a week. Typically those always stay on Monday and Thursday. Generally you want about 48 hours between some kind of like good, like raw lifting session where that's all they're doing. We progress people on that. I'm a huge fan, even though people get bored with it, of like a 3-week progressive overload. So we kind of like start people and then like work them up for 3 weeks with the same accessory week and our accessory work. And then we change it, do the same thing for 3 weeks, change those movements. So I'm a big fan of that. But sometimes we'll do things like a 20 rep back squat program, or like we've done the old school Ed Cohen deadlift program, like some stuff that's just like really good at building raw strength. So that's always on a Monday. The other lifting day typically kind of floats throughout the week, but that tends to be something that's either more technique oriented. Right now, we're just experimenting. We're calling it like a barbell endurance day. So it's supposed to be like lower intensity. And I'm trying to think of one we recently did. It was a 40-minute EMOM where people did 1 clean and jerk. We do like an RPE, 6 or 7, and then 3 burpees over the bar. So they have a lot of time to rest, So essentially they're doing like, a little more than grace volume wise, but with heavier load and like way less intensity. Right. So that's Thursday. And then the other roughly 3 days a week. So you got these 2 strength days, 1 long duration day. That's Chad right now. And then that leaves us roughly 3 other days where we'll have more high intensity classic workouts. Some of those will feel very, very CrossFit oriented. Some of them will be interval workouts. Depending on what we've done elsewhere in the week, they might be loaded, they might be unloaded. Just your classic stuff that everyone's probably really familiar with on the other 3 days.
Yeah. Love it. What about movement variation? Like what's in the repertoire of movements? Has that changed much over again, talking from, CrossFit heavy to now, what's in the bag, what's out of the bag, or has that changed?
Yeah, I think like pretty similar. We don't really program snatches much. We still do, but not a ton. Yeah. We don't program a ton of handstand push-ups. You'll occasionally see them for those that have that capacity, but not a ton. Occasionally see handstand walking, but not a ton. We program probably way, way more carries than, we ever did back in the, CrossFit days or whatever you want to call it. And then I would say that like we look at things that like just overarching movement patterns: squat, hinge, push, pull, lunge, and carry. Those are kind of the 5 things that we'll say, okay, are those introduced in the week? Which ones of those are we focused on more of a strength aspect? Which more of a speed aspect? How do the 3 days of intensity work in? And I'm telling you right now, bro, it takes me way longer to program like that. Yeah. If you want me to program you a week of like, burn it down workouts and have everyone be laying on the floor in a pile of goo, take me about 7 minutes, dude. I got you. I give you a week of pain.
Yeah.
A week of well thought out, like, okay, well, wait, if we did this on this day, I'm not sure that makes sense on that day. What if I move it over here? But that time and this total volume, and if it's going to progress, well, that gets in the way of this squat day. And the priorities here, like way more thought, way longer doing that.
Oh yeah, same. I know it is like you said. Yeah, same. But way more effective, way fewer injuries, way fewer burnout, way fewer, overall fatigue towards a certain movement. Yeah, it's a lot better, but it's a lot more work.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm still trying to like, okay, how can I simplify this and make this better? And, we'll get there, but right now it's like, it takes some thought, like you got to write up the strength piece beforehand and then think about, okay, well, what accessory lifts do we do? Because we do accessory work with that. And how do those interfere with the rest of the work and week and things like that? So yeah, it's challenging, but it's worth it.
It is 100%. And again, it sounds like you're retaining a lot of that. Like the well-rounded fitness thing is still the biggest thing I have kept. The questioning of, like you said, snatch is probably my favorite movement in the gym.
Yeah, such a great lift.
After watching it for the last 15 years of the general population come in and being like, oh God, this was the bad. Why are we doing this again? That question, why are we doing this? Just kind of, it ended up washing that out of a lot of stuff. And we still do it usually, once a week. We'll usually do some sort of weightlifting thing once a week. And it's just like, okay, cool. That gives something novel and something interesting for someone to work for. But doing Isabel is not on the program anymore.
Yeah, it was interesting. We've had some cool people come through town because Park City, we've got, like the Olympic Center and stuff here. And this might help people kind of like come down, for a second. Like, cause I think some of the stuff can be like emotional and sensitive. And honestly, like when I talk through this, like I love CrossFit, right? Like I love the community. Yep. CrossFit gave me so much. And CrossFit affiliates are great for the most part. The community's awesome. The culture's great. Like, and sadly, and I'm not afraid to say this, people might not like me for this. I don't really mind, but like people I think have tried to sort of do this in the past where like, hey, there's a better way. But when they do that, they kind of like bite the hand that fed them or they just poo-poo.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, CrossFit's terrible. I'm like, well, really? Because like you're still kind of doing aspects of it. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want people to think that at all. Like what I would love is to be a catalyst to say, hey, how can we make CrossFit affiliates better? Right. Like, even though I am no longer a CrossFit affiliate and I don't have that in my name and things like that, that's just a choice that we made. And that's a very personal choice for every person. It's not a right or wrong thing, but like, I would love to see the CrossFit community just make this massive like reboost and have new life breathed into it and have affiliates be well equipped to be like, you know what, like we've learned so much with our programming over the years, and this is actually how we define CrossFit now, and this is what programming looks like, and this is why, and this is how we measure it. Because I used to say it at the end of every What is Fitness lecture. Why do we do this? Because it's measurable, observable, and repeatable. And then here's the crux. And we would say, and if we find anything that works better, we're going to do it. But I don't think people have made the effort to find anything that's better. And I'm not afraid to try to find it and be wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, I could be wrong. But as of now, for an aging population, call it whatever you want. And I would even argue someone that's like in their 20s and does not care about competing in a fitness competition, like the CrossFit Games. I believe that what I'm trying to do will serve people better over the long term.
Yeah.
And so like all that to be said, it's not poo-pooing it at all. Like I think it's like, gosh, I got way off on a tangent.
No, I could not. This is the first time we've met, but I'm in the exact same. I mean, almost the same. We dropped our affiliation, and again, personal choice. What we do still looks a lot. You walk into my gym, people are going to call it a CrossFit gym, and whether we do not, but there's so much magic that was able to happen. But same journey is just there was so much questioning for me that went on that kind of pulled me out of that to say, hey, I think this is what I want to do, and I don't want to say my answer to be because CrossFit. I want to say because this is my experience, or this is what I've learned, or this is what I've borrowed from this other thing. So that we're going to do it this way.
Yeah, and eventually, like, it becomes a disservice to people that are coming in.
Totally.
Yeah, that's happened to us. It's like because of the assumption of like, well, I thought you were a CrossFit gym, but this doesn't really feel like it. It's like, you're kind of right. Like some days do, but other days don't at all. So it's sort of like I don't want people to be misled. But what I was going to say is like if it disarms people a little bit, we had this guy come in. It's really cool. He was the strength and conditioning coach for the Olympic bobsled team for Great Britain. And there are these monsters walking around, like 6'4", 275, like lifting crazy amounts of weight. And they were getting to this different, like they were all had their own kind of individual program, but you could tell they were like following, okay, like these guys are all doing single leg box step ups, and these guys are all doing this. But when it came time for like explosive power with their hips, you saw some guys doing cleans, some guys were doing snatches, some were from the floor, some were from the hang, some were doing behind the neck stuff. And my buddy Doug, he walked over to this guy and he's like, why are they doing different stuff? And the guy was so cool. He's like, well, my job is to make these guys as explosive and as powerful as possible. And for some of them, they're going to be able to develop that better because of their technique or their body type with a clean. And for others, it's going to be a behind the neck snatch grip push press. And for others, and it was kind of cool to be like, oh, so the purpose has remained the same. But for each individual, he's finding the best way for them to be the most powerful athlete they can be. And some movements just either weren't effective or weren't safe or didn't favor their body type. And it's like, why can we not do that in our setting for our clientele on a daily basis?
Dude, that's so, I love it. Actually, it brings it back around to what you said in the beginning about scaling. And that, it's really quite simple, even when you bring it back down to movement patterns and the full expression of the movement pattern of the intent. But that's also really hard for people to understand how to do as a coach. And, but at the same time, it's like, okay, like again, comes back to the CrossFit, like it varies by degree, not kind. Like it's really similar in that fashion to understand, okay, this is RX, but not necessarily. Like this is the intent. Yeah, right.
Right. What's that like? That's just like this like arbitrary workout that I came up with and like think a goal time and like a good stimulus for like most people is gonna work well, but it's like not everybody. Yeah. And so like we don't call workouts RX. We don't even write weights on the board. Yeah. We just literally have it say, 5 deadlifts. People are like, what weight do I use? Like, well, you should always be able to get 5, but it should be pretty heavy. Like, what is that? Like, well, for you, it's 185. And someone else is like, well, I don't understand. Well, you're like, for you, it's 315. Yeah. For you, it's 65. Yeah. And they're like, well, but it's like, yeah, cool. And some people, it's like, well, I don't want you deadlifting. Like, I actually want you to pull from the blocks. Or I want you to, and so this is when it becomes like, I got to know what I'm doing as a coach. Yes. And I got to earn my keep. Like, I have to understand this beyond just like, hey, here's how we scale. I need to be thinking about, okay, like, this person is like, if hinge work really aggravates them, like, what do I need to do to assess that? Is hinging appropriate for them? How do I know if it aggravates them? Yeah. And if it does, what do I do to accommodate that? Different variations of squats, different bars. That's where it can get so cool because it breathes some life, I think, back into people coaching. But it also, it's not necessarily the easy road. I don't think it's that either.
No, it's that hyper individualization, even within the group. That's so good. I think it's just challenging. It just becomes really, trying to dispel all the things in there. But it all, again, I think that the nice part about that, and what I try and educate my coaches on is like, hey, it actually is pretty simple. Just think about the movement pattern. Like, what's the intent? What's the movement pattern? Like, and then, I don't know, play around. See what you just try different stuff and see how it goes. I don't know. Yeah,
like even like my buddy Spencer at BPR and I, like we even wrote up this, I think it might still be online. I'll have to see. Like we wrote up this big doc. Like we tried to run a seminar on it and stuff, and it just fell flat. But like we had a whole seminar and doc on movement, function, and demand.
Yeah.
Like we went through all of it. Squat, hinge, push, pull. And it just helps people break it down. And then we broke it down by also like not just that, but movement demand. So we kind of went from least to most demanding, where least demanding, if you think about like a, uh, a hinge pattern, would be an isometric hold. So step one
Mm.
is like isometric,
Mm-hmm.
right? Can I just hold my hip
Mm-hmm.
hinge? Can I do that? And if we can do that, okay, cool. Well, now can I do that in a dynamic environment? Which dynamic we just kind of said, well, can I move through that range of motion at control? So that would look more like a deadlift, right? Well, now can I add speed to that? And that would be more ballistic, which would be like a kettlebell swing or a hang clean, because decelerating weight is the most demanding thing we can do for our body. And so it's kind of the same thing. Instead of just like assigning a hang squat clean to someone, it's like, well, if we go back to that goblet squat test, can they confidently, like, one, can they confidently hold the bottom of the squat?
Yeah.
Well, okay, cool, they can. Well, now can I do a squat with some reasonable capacity? Okay, cool. Well, now I can progress them to a hang clean safely and confidently. And it's not to say that you can't teach them how to do a hang clean as they're learning with appropriate load. Like, yeah, for sure. But, that's different than, cycling through 80 reps in a workout at, 80% of their max. So it does take a little bit more effort, but if you kind of break it down in that movement, function, and demand, I think it pays dividends. And it's funny though, like I don't have any problem being transparent. We even offer a program or a membership that does that for people. So we offer our members, we call it an elevated membership, where for another $100 a month, they can have an assigned coach that goes into True Coach and takes the entire week of programming and modifies it for them based on movement demand, function, and any goals they have. So if you were my client, Kenny, I'd be like, hey, what do you have coming up? Like, I've got this hunt coming up, so I want to make sure that long duration is a little bit more in play. My low back bothers me when I do hinge work, and we know that from an assessment, whatever. And like, I take the entire week of programming and I change that for you.
That's cool.
So then you go into the gym and you have that. But I'm going to be straight up. That sounds so cool, doesn't it? And like in my head, I think, why would everyone not be doing that? Guess how many people we have do that?
Not, I bet it. Yeah, I can. Not many. 10, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 8 to 10, out of 160. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, but maybe part of it is that they think it's not valuable enough because they can kind of do it on their own and get by. But point being is like, there's ways to be creative for you as an athlete, a gym owner, someone that programs for the gym, to think about, okay, what does this look like and how do we do it in a group setting? I wouldn't put yourself in a box and feel like it has to look one way or another. I just start to get creative about what does that look like for your community, what's effective for it.
Yeah, again, I love just who the avatar is, and you gotta say, okay, this is who we serve, this is what we're trying to get them to do, and then your program should align with that, which sounds so basic, but I don't know how well it's being done often because people aren't willing to question some of those things. Again, not questioning CrossFit necessarily, but just questioning and having confidence in who they're serving and what they're doing and how it's serving them. So
yeah, and it's tricky. Like we're in a position too, where it's like, how do we get more members? Why? If what we offer is so great and it's such a great deal, why am I not bursting at the seams? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I can say that, and I believe that. I believe that what we do is better than anybody else in our area. I know it's not for everyone. I know some people are like, I'll never convince someone that they're not going to get big.
Yeah.
Just because they're lifting a barbell. I can tell you that, but I'm not trying to make you bulky, and like I can't fix that, right? And yes, you might put on muscle, and yes, the scale might not move, and like I can't fix that. But if people are willing to try, it's like, well, why aren't more people coming to us? Ooh. And if there's this big emphasis in the industry now with influencers and all this garbage in the fitness world that you see, but people talk about the importance of strength. It's like, well, we know how to get people strong. And like, not to be mean, but the pink dumbbells, and it ain't going to cut it at some point. Like, for someone coming off the couch, great. But at some point, it's just not going to help people get strong. Right. And that's like, I'm okay to let them know that in a caring, loving way. It's like, well, so to that point, it's like, know who you serve, but then becomes how do you reach them? Oh man, that's a whole other ball of wax right there, buddy.
It is. I know, but I still like that's what gets me up in the morning still, right? Like I've been doing not quite as long as you, but going on 13 years and I still wake up and I want to be super confident in what we're delivering. I'm still striving to be the best and I'm still striving knowing how many people that we aren't serving because I know what we can do. And I think yeah, while it is frustrating, I still for whatever reason love pushing that rock up the hill.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know. And I'm not sure if it's an echo chamber where just my sphere of influence. I like what you said, like everybody's talking about strength. Everybody's talking about zone 2. Everyone's talking about functional this, that, and the
Yeah,
other.
shocker, right? I should get 8 hours of sleep and eat real food. It's gonna be this life-changing thing. And listen to me, and I'll charge you 100 grand a year to write you a program. It's like, come on. It's like everybody's just talking about the same thing and repackaging it with a different wrap and a different bow. I'm like, bro, sorry, I get a little
Dude.
jaded. I'm like, really? Like, come on, guys. Like, let's all just call it what it is.
Right.
You know, whether you do that with staring at sun for the first 15 minutes or not, like that cool. I don't know, but sleep matters. Yeah, check.
Yeah.
Eat well. Got it. Like reduce stress. Now the question I think becomes then like, well, cool, we know all that stuff, but how?
Yeah. Sure.
Like what are you doing the other 23 hours of the day? And this is, I think, the next step. And again, where kind of my buddy Spencer has gone with it with BPR is like he even does stuff where it's like further down the scope of sort of like the psychological side and saying like, well, hey, if you like you're a complex system, so yeah, like training is important, but what do the other 23 hours of your day look like and how do you navigate that? What does that look like? And having deeper conversations with these clients, which is just like another expression of that. And but yeah, if we don't figure out how to do that stuff, it's like, I don't know, how are we helping people? How are we really serving them? Because like I just care about that whole person approach too, right? I really do. I really care about that. But it's a tough nut to crack because people have to be willing, right? And sometimes willing just means they have to be willing to say, life is stressful.
Yeah.
Work is hard. Things are tough. Like, and then we have to be able to say, okay, Kenny, like, I get that, dude. Like, you don't even have to share with me what's going on, but I can tell you're stressed. And that means that today, like, I need you to chill, bro.
Yeah.
I need this hour of your day to fill your cup and not take it away.
Yeah.
And the next person that comes in, they're just like bouncing off the walls. Like, you're in a great mood. I could tell things are good, you know? But how do you do that? Like, that's that next layer of coaching and care, and giving people space. I think that's what wakes me up in the morning is like, everybody's so different and they're going through stuff. We all have stuff. And the gym, if we can make it a place, yeah, they're working out. But let's be honest, people, there's only so many combinations of squats, burpees, thrusters, pull-ups that you can do before you have to come to terms with like, I value this enough that I'm willing to grind it out and enjoy the monotony.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. And so then how do we look at that other side of the person and say, hey, what is the hour we're doing in here making that better? And how?
Yeah.
Because that's a deeper question, man. And like everybody, yeah, I mean, that is hard. And then becomes the crux of it feels real personal as a business owner. And then it feels like it really stings when people leave that much more.
I wish I feel this. I mean, every single individual, I feel like I either failed them or whatever. So it still hasn't gone away, you know, after all these years and how many people we have in the gym and how many people have come through the doors. I was actually just looking at, you know, it's a quarterly thing. I'll look at who's left in the year and you want to check in with them. You go through that list and you get this little like sting. You're like, oh man, like there's some people in there I really feel like I let down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard.
It's
man.
really hard.
And then there's this weird side of it too, where like, I get it though. Like my job is to provide a service for these people to give them a result. And at the end of the day, that's my job.
Yeah.
And while, yes, I have friends in the gym, a lot of them are, I mean, all of them, they're clients. They're not really people that I call at 1 a.m. if stuff's hitting the fan. And so I have to separate that, right? And understand that they have stuff and there might be reasons that they leave that I can't answer. But then if you go back to what we're talking about, like we look at it more than just like teaching people how to deadlift and get strong, but looking at them as the whole person, well, then I get to know them more.
Yeah.
And they get to know me more and becomes more personal. And when things are more personal, people are often more willing to share their opinions. And it's like, well, I thank you for your opinion, but I'm the one that's on the hook for the mortgage. And like, I'm not going to carry Aviator Nation sweatpants. We can't do that right now. So, yeah, right? Like, and so if people are gym owner, like, you guys get it. I don't know. Maybe it's just an encouragement to us that, like, keep fighting the good fight, man, right? Because, like, maybe that means we're doing it right, is that you feel that tension. You feel that. How do I navigate that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's all wrong.
No, I don't think so. I think I think it's a peek behind the curtain I think gym owners oftentimes get on the island and they think that the only ones having these struggles and feeling these ways and that they, again, fighting the good fight and feeling like they're something around appreciate. I think we focus on the negative sometimes. Like we focus on the people that leave, not the 150 that are still in the gym. Yeah. But still, like, I think it's a good authentic look to realize, hey, this is tough. This is not an easy thing to operate.
No, tough for me too. Like right here, people sometimes like, oh, but you CrossFit Games, like, bro, no one knows, no one cares. Yeah. Like I've had people walk in the gym and they're like, hey, like, and it doesn't matter, but I have people walk in the gym like, yeah, like kind of like peacocking a little bit. You ever seen anybody at the CrossFit Games? Like, yeah, we have, how many people? A couple, I don't know. It's just like, no one knows, it's like, and that's fine. It doesn't matter, right? So it's like, it's just, it is, and I think it's so healthy to talk about it in an environment like this. Like, dude, I've been stuck at a critical mass of about 150 to 160 clients for, I bet you, 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me. I can't and here's the thing. I need to figure that out. Like, I legit have to figure that out. How do I get 50 more members or generate more revenue in the gym? Because if I don't treat it like a business and I don't run it like that, it's not going to be here in another decade for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, own it. You know what I mean? Like, I think we have to like own that struggle as people, and those that are more successful, great. Like, what's working? How is that working? Why? Is it the demographic that you're in? Is it and by demographic, I mean, is it just purely like the population that you have? Is it the age group that is in your area? Is it the amount of people? Is it something that you're doing that much better marketing or programming that I'm just completely oblivious to? Is it a little bit of luck, lightning in a bottle? Is it, all those things I think are just really important as affiliate owners, at least, to sort of like take some ownership of, man. I have no problem letting people know like the difficulty that, it's been to run the gym. None. I'd pull back the curtain, frankly, like for us, like we were fortunate enough to build our building, right? And I'll just shoot people straight. This is probably way off topic.
No, I love it.
If it is, you can stop.
That's great.
But like a big reason why we're able to continue doing what we're doing is not because of the revenue the gym brings in. It's because the business supports the investment of the building, because the building is increasing its revenue.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the building is the investment.
Yeah.
It's not the business financially.
Yeah.
Guess what? The only way that we were able to build the building is by the grace of God. And I was fortunate enough to compete, and I did it all wrong. But every sponsor dollar that I ever made, I saved with my wife. We put into a bank account and we used that to put down as a down payment on the building. Yeah. I would not have been able to do that had I just run an affiliate. I wouldn't have had the money. I couldn't have done it. And maybe that's because I'm a less savvy business owner. I don't have a good understanding of that. I didn't go to school for that, right? So I'm sure there are people that could do a million times better than me. But just if it's encouraging to those of you guys that are listening, like I know the struggle, and sometimes when things appear to be like, oh my gosh, like this building, or they must have 600 people in the gym. Not always, man. There's a lot of different ways that people got there.
Dude, I am so appreciative of the authenticity of it because I mentor 40 different gym owners through Two Brain, and I have this conversation daily about people assuming they are the ones they're the only ones floundering, or they don't understand how somebody did the thing. And I'm like, well, this is how they did the thing. I know, because I work with them. I know how they did the thing. This is how it worked. And we all have different stories. We all have different journeys. And again, I think there's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a peacocking, whatever it is in the industry, where we kind of have to put the best foot or the best face forward, because that's just, we got to be the shining example. But behind the scenes, it's trickier than that. And I think it's really important it's like fitness, right? I think the same story, like where somebody's like, I've had good genetics. That's my backstory. I would just kind of walked in, I did a muscle up like at my third try. It wasn't because I did the program, but that's my story. It's not wrong or right or indifferent. That's just how I got there. So it doesn't mean that anybody's worse or better. We're all just walking a different path, but it's all still challenging. And I think that's I don't know. I think it's good for people to know that stuff because they feel less isolated in their own journeys.
For sure. And then even deeper layer for business owners, it's like they're same thing, just like fitness, right? It's like there has to be a crossroads where we have to decide, like, am I in or am I out?
Yeah.
It just has to be like, gosh, because if you're running a business to try to have it take care of like your family and you, and like the goal of a business is to generate profit.
Yeah.
Like it needs to generate profit, because if it doesn't, like it's not going to be there for anybody to enjoy. Right. And so how do we do that? And how do we do that with, like we said, the right kind of programming and investing in the people and the right coaches and the right pay scale and the right membership fee and the right amenities and like, holy complexity, right? But I don't know, give just encouragement to these guys that are out there, like gym owners. Maybe there is a time where you're like, I'm out. Maybe there's a time where you're like, I'm in and I need to buckle down and I need to like do these things because this is what's going to make the difference. And it's going to be really hard. But I think it's just like anything, right? We can kind of either fall. I know to my default is like, oh, wait. I'm not going to ask the question. I'm just going to work harder. I'm just going to put my head down and work harder. You need to do more. I could do more. Is it more really making a difference? I don't know. So like, instead of just putting your head down and kind of hiding, from that question, ask yourself the question, right? Like, are we really setting ourselves up for success? Are we not? Do I have the right people on my team?
Yeah.
Am I doing the right programming? Am I marketing right? Do I need to work on my leadership? Bro, I have tons of shortcomings, tons, right? But I just think it's so important to ask those questions. What's my exit strategy?
Yeah.
What's that look like? How do I retire off this thing?
Yeah.
All so important. Anyway.
Dude, that's great, man. I know you got to run. I got to get going, but I could do this all day long. I appreciate the heck out of the conversation about program design, about your journey, your experiences now. Like, this has been fantastic. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah. As always, thank you for listening. To find more about adventure preparedness programming, go to parkcityfit.com. And don't forget to join our group at strengthcoachcollective.com.